What's really, really been bugging me is I just got done playing KOTOR 1, which is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1, and, you in the game you're Revan, and I ended up going a little bit overboard with my Star Wars fanboyness, and I started looking up videos of Revan and Malik, and the Ancient Sith, and the True Sith, and, if you know your Star Wars, then you know what I'm talking about, mostly concerning the Sith. And one thing that's always bugs me is who people think are the top Sith Lords and such. So I thought I'd do my take on it. I really doubt anybody's gonna watch this, but I'll make this larger. Right now it's in Star Wars font. Let's do it something that everybody can see. Out of my top 5 Sith, one of the most commonly used would be Bane. Darth Bane was the one who created the rule of 2, and throughout the entire history of the Star Wars movies, mind you, just the movies, there have only ever been just the 2. Now, Darth Bane here, as you can see, was part of the Brotherhood of the Sith, which was a Sith organization, and up until this point, the Sith believed that the more the better, pretty much. And what Bane came to find was that there was always inner fighting between them because there were so many trying to get to power and become the Dark Lord of the Sith. Well, what Bane did was he eliminated the entire order all but for him, and he ended up taking on an apprentice. Now, what makes him such a distinguished Sith apart from others is not only his wisdom from able to make this rule, but also his abilities. Now, granted, like here, the orbalisks weren't actually him, it was just his armor. It actually allowed him to take on the entire Sith at one point and almost completely destroy them. And Xana was taken in as his own apprentice. He did dwell, like most Sith, into taking a step to immortalize himself, though I'm pretty sure he never was actually able to reach that. Marker Ragnos, a very, very powerful Sith Lord. Let's see if I can find the page. Here we go. Now, he was a half-breed Dark Lord of Sith. Most people, when they think Sith, they're thinking like Darth Vader, Sidious, Maul, but originally, the Sith were a species that was natively found on Corbin. And the species were, I guess, to put it simply, they were kind of like Darth Maul, except they didn't have the black tattoos. And what they had, if you take the Twi'leks, I can't pronounce it for shit. You were to take them and you would combine the two, you would get something like that. I can't find it here. But anyway, he was a half-breed one of them, and what made him so distinguishable is not only his power, he was also one of the great generals and one in the Great Hyperspace War, along with Nagasato, which was his apprentice. And one of the only reasons why I'm actually putting him in his list is not only for being a general in the Hyperspace War, which also makes my top 5 Star Wars list, but he was so powerful in the Force, just like, so many other people, but usually it takes them a while to come back through the Force. He was actually present at his own funeral through the Force and tempted Nagasato and Ludo Kresh into fighting for his throne. Right here it says, Ragnar's spirit appeared before them and proclaimed that only the most worthy should succeed him. And here you can see the picture, and that's his actual funeral, which I thought was just amazing. Next, I am a Revan fanboy, so the fact that Revan is only third just kills me so much. And if you played KOTOR 1 and 2, then I'm pretty sure you know the full story of Revan. He is the prodigal Jedi. I think that's the word. Anyway. And he became so well adapted to the Force that he kept changing masters, learning all that he could. And eventually, when he learned all he could, he went back to his original master, and with only one more lesson to learn, that was how to lead the Jedi forever. Revan was out of the first two Jedi to split from the Order and actually help the Republic during the Mandalorian Wars. The reason why I put him in the list, and the reason why he's one of the most powerful Sith Lords ever, is the fact that much like Bastila's battle meditation, he didn't use the Force like she did, but his mind was able to strategize just as well as her meditation skills. That he was able to conquer so many planets by the Mandalorians, which were well known as some of the strongest warriors in the galaxy at the time. And he was almost able to obliterate them completely and ended up killing the Mandalore himself. And of course he went into the unknown reaches and he came back a Sith Lord, started taking over the Republic, and then ended up being fired upon by Darth Malak when Bastila Shan arrived on the ship, and he was damaged by that, and his mind was like almost completely fried, and they saved him and whatnot. And the rest of the story goes on, like most Jedi, conquer the Sith, and he went off into unknown regions to conquer the true Sith. Here are two that I'm pretty sure most never heard of, Darth Andidu and Darth Rear, I think. What stood up out of these two was that Darth Andidu was the first one to the forebear of the Darth title. Darth Didier, I can't even say it. They say he was the first one, but I think he was one of the ones that were traceable. But I'm pretty sure he wasn't actually the first one. But anyway, what stood out about these two is that they were actually able to create immortality. Darth Andidu was actually able to transport his consciousness into another object of sorts, and it does not say when he appeared, but he was actually destroyed after the Battle of Yavin, 137 ABY, which is the time frame most people use. And this is forever, considering he was the first Darth that ever actually appeared. That is centuries, and this was all because he was the first person, and one of the only people who actually ever managed to create everlasting immortality. Now, Darth Didier, what he did when which is also why he's tied, he actually made an elixir which made him immortal, kind of like turning him into zombies, but it kind of decayed his flesh a little. Well, a lot, and he ended up dying before he was able to cure that side effect. And those two end up coming in second for me, and the first is the Sith Emperor. Now, when I say Emperor, I'm not talking Palpatine, because he sucks so bad. I'm talking the actual Sith Emperor, the only one that's ever been called the Emperor of the Sith, and the only one that should ever be called as such. I gotta find it here. Wow, this is interesting. Anyway, he was an emperor, and what made him so special is he was the one that turned Revan and Malak to the dark side, which is what made him stand out, but also because he lived for thousands of years and ended up being the cause of the war that Revan and the Jedi Exile were trying to prevent. They ended up coming back, and I'm pretty sure I forget which war it was, but the one that happened after Revan, he ended up coming back and he was the cause of it. And what was weird is the Sith Lords at the time did not really approve of him, which is why they gave the title of the Dark Lord of the Sith to Exar Kun. What most people speculate that because of his status, that he wasn't worthy of it and gave it to Exar Kun instead. And also noting that he has no name, he is only known as the Sith Emperor, the only one without a name. I would not even consider Palpatine a Sith Emperor. There has only ever been one. It never specifically states how he dies, but the fact he was able to turn Revan and Malak and lasted for so many years and created one of the worst battles ever seen, I'm pretty sure he easily makes #1. I mean, because imagine how strong Revan was to begin with, and in order to be able to turn him so easily, you know, you gotta have some skill. Now, for the top 5 wars, the Great Schisms, I guess that's what it is, are actually 3 different wars between the Light and Dark Jedi. The first one was the origin of the first split between Light and Dark Jedi, occurred around 24,500 lwhy, and this is actually what created the Sith, I guess you could say, the legions of the Leto, which are they're still Dark Jedi. The Sith haven't actually come around, but I guess you could say that's the start of it. And then, a long while, what ended up coming next was, if I can find it, the 100-Year Darkness, which is the second one. And this is where you get the Jedi Exiles, one of the ones that is most commonly known as Paul, which you see in KOTOR 1. He regretted his life as a Dark Jedi, and he didn't make the list because he ended up refuting himself in the end there. But this was the original split between the Dark Jedi, and what makes this so significant is that the Dark Jedi left the Order, and they ended up going out in unknown territory. They eventually landed on Corbin, and then they bred between the true Sith and the Dark Jedi. And, you know, Nagasato was one of these, as you can see the pictures here. He was cross between the two, which makes that war so significant. The Great Hyperspace War, which is an incredibly horrible war for the Republic, which almost ended up in their loss. Mark Ragnos was the one who commanded it in the whole thing, along with help of like Freedom Nad, which is also another well-known Jedi Sith, I suppose. It's only really up there because of the importance of it, because so many Jedi came from that and ended up turning Sith. Like you had Nagasato, you had Freedom Nad, and you had Exar Kun, which are all Master and Apprentice going down the list. And all of them served in this war. Now, the Mandalorian Wars, though pretty, not as recent as some of the others, is actually one of the bloodiest wars, mostly because the Mandalorians usually never gave up until they had their kill, and which caused so many problems, which is mostly why Revan came in, because they were so extremely well adapted. I mean, they were a warrior race, and this, without Revan and Malak, I can tell you what, I hate to be the Republic, but they would defeat any enemy in their path, which is why they started the war with the Republic, and this just caused so many bloody battles. It is probably one of the bloodiest that I would choose. And the top war is Force Wars. Now, I would be incredibly surprised if anybody knew what these were. But, and then I'm talking about like ancient history. What happened was a group of people, warriors, sages, anything of the such, came together and met on the planet Python. And what happened was they didn't agree on their views of how the Force should be used, and this created the first split between light and dark sides of the Force, which ended up causing this war. And what makes this significant above all others is the fact that if this war had never happened, there would be no Sith. Yes, there would be the true Sith race, but Sith as the essence itself, like the Empire, the Sith ways would have never come to light without this war. If this war had never happened, all we would have is the Jedi Order. And there would still be conflict, but there would not be as near as much as what resulted from this. Because this pretty much showed, it needs to be stopped, and the Jedi started, cracking down. Yes, I don't know. Not really too well, because I kind of skimmed through most of this. I've read it before, but anyway, this has so much significance when you read this. It doesn't seem like much, because that's all that's there, but, I mean, I'm telling you, without this, there would be no Sith. Now, granted, there are so many other wars, like, the one with the Empire and the Rebels, which everybody knows. You got the Clone Wars, but none of them compare to any of these. And you have your Siths, most people are going to go, Darth Vader, well, Darth Vader sucks ass. He's not that. People would say Grievous, yeah, Grievous isn't even Sith Lord. Count Dooku, not even worth mentioning. Palpatine. I will admit, he did have the foresight needed to actually span his planet's generations ahead and was able to actually fake his death quite a lot, which was cool, because if you read the books, he actually came back a few times as like clones and such, so I will give him credit for the foresight, but he is nowhere near as compared to Bane, Marka, Revan, Edidu, and the Sith Emperor. I mean, in terms of power and what they have accomplished over them, it's absolutely not even close. Now, granted, people would say, well, he was the only one to actually conquer the entire galaxy and rule over. Well, sometimes you get lucky, and just because you can't see well into the future enough to be able to plan your events doesn't mean that you're not better than the person who can. And that's, I guess, why most people side with Palpatine, and why he would be top. And like I said, I'm a Revan fanboy, so the fact that Revan's number 3 kind of angers me, and most people would pick Revan because of the games when they played him, and he just sounded so badass because he was, evil and, betrayed, and now he came back and he's all good. He became a Chronicle Knight, and he redeemed himself and became infamous throughout all Star Wars. But that doesn't mean that the lesser well-knowns aren't better. And that being said, the whole reason, like I stated before, the Sith Emperor was able to turn Jedi as powerful as Revan without even... nobody's quite sure what actually happened, but I'm pretty sure there wouldn't have been any lightsaber duels. So I really doubt he would have actually, defeated him and forced him to turn like Malik did with Shan. So, going on that assumption, I'm assuming that he just kind of persuaded Revan and Malik to join them, which is, pretty tough as it is. And with that being said, I think I'm going to end this video. I'm really annoying myself now. The fact that I'm probably wrong with a lot of this. But that's my assumptions. And if you don't like it, leave a comment. If you like it, leave a comment. If you don't agree with the wars, now some of the details, I didn't look too much into the wars. I just looked at the purposes. And if you have a better war, just let me know in the comments, and do something with it. Kind of guess. But, alright, that's it for me. Bye.